Okay, everybody, thank you so much for attending today's session. I'm so glad to see you. What this will be is a overview of LDM and our different programs so that you can see what is in store for you at LDM and what you'd like to do when it comes to your academics, your housing, your extracurriculars, just envisioning yourself in Florence at LDM. So throughout this presentation, what that means is I will be asking you some questions and I will love your interaction. If you're open to it, chatting on the little side box is totally fine. If you want to say something, you can. But first off, let's go over a little bit about us at LdM. All right, so these are some fast facts about LdM. First and foremost, we are a study abroad institution. So what that means is that students come from all around the world to study together at LdM. So you'll be in classes with all kinds of students who are just as new to study abroad as you are, and sharing those experiences with them. And we do host quite a few students throughout the year, typically equaling to 3,000 annually. Now, as you can imagine, the last couple of years has been so different with the pandemic, but I will say we're excited that this spring will be our biggest session yet since the pandemic started, and we have quite a few students coming. So it's all very exciting, and we are ready to get back into it. We were founded in 1973, so we've been around a while. And we originally had just a campus in Florence. We have a campus in Tuscany, so feel free to visit on the weekends if you like. Our staff is super friendly there. And after 48 years, we're now considered one of the largest and oldest international institutes in Italy within higher education. And we still have our home campus in Florence, and it's only grown. If you don't know any Italian before you come to LdM, I just want to say that's not an issue whatsoever. Most of our students actually don't know Italian who come, so it's a great experience to jump into a new environment, a new culture, and learn it if you would like. At least for this academic year, it's not been required to take Italian, but that may change for upcoming academic years, like next fall perhaps. Usually in this semester it is required, but in that case we would just have you take whatever level is appropriate for you. Keeping that in mind, we have all levels offered. And always I encourage Italian because I was an Italian minor and it is amazing to take it in Florence. So basically this slide is going to show you guys a little slideshow of some of our buildings in Florence and some of our different equipment. You may be surprised to know that we have 14 buildings at LdM Florence. It's not what a typical campus as you might think of in the States. It's actually spread out throughout the city. But the good thing about Florence, and we'll get into that later, it's super pedestrian friendly. So at most, you're going to be taking like a 15 to 20 minute walk between classes. Very easy to get to. None of my students ever have issues with going from class to class throughout the day. So it's actually a pretty fun experience getting to see the city while you go to class. And we have state-of-the-art equipment at Florence, as you can see. And our academic offerings include 35 different departments with more than 500 course options throughout the year, all taught in English except for Italian language classes. We have international faculty where you'll be able to connect with different ideas, cultures, outside of the ones that you bring to the table yourself. Our faculty are always very eager to engage students with new concepts, new ways of learning, global thinking. One example I can think of is at LdM, we take pride in our method of experiential learning. And what that means is that when you're at LdM, you're not just going to be in your classroom. The professors are actually going to make an effort to take you on field trips, take you outside of the classroom, take you around the city, and that the city is going to be such a big personality in your classes that if you're taking a history class, if you're taking an art class, if you're taking fashion, whatever that is, even writing, everything, like they find ways to bring Florence into the equation in your classes. So there's a reason you're going to study at LdM in Florence, because they bring all of that energy into each class. So our professors just have such a strong pride in that, to any student going, I just say, get ready, because that's everyone's favorite part, is taking those classes and having that experience. These are a few of, we have 2 slides for departments. So these are 3 of the 6 offered at Florence. We have our Creative Arts School, our School of Design, our School of Italian Language and Culture, and just I put some videos on here today so you can see exactly what that might look like. If whether you want to take film and media arts, painting, drawing, and mixed media, sculpture, or if you want to take fashion design, graphic design, these are some of the original departments and schools that LdM was so close with when it began. So these are some wonderful options to take if you do attend. And then last but not least at all, we have these other 3, our Liberal Arts and Social Sciences School, our School of Nutrition, Italian Gastronomy and Culture, always a favorite with our students because it's amazing to go to Florence and learn how to cook Italian food or taste the wine while you're there and be able to tell like a mini sommelier experience in your class. And then we have the School of Science and Mathematics, where we actually collaborate with the University of Florence to give a more comprehensive experience in science and mathematics during the students' time there. So, you know, taking all of that in, I'd love to go to the next slide if you guys had a moment to kind of look at some of those departments. For example, one of the students' favorites is the sociology and history of the Italian mafia. We also have psychology of crime. We have psychology of human creativity. There's a lot of different kinds of courses you can take, or history and writing and things like that. I always like to put it in because it's I think a perfect example of what Florence might look like as you're going in your taxi to go to check-in. So there's a little overview of Florence for you guys. Okay, so you may already know about Florence, you may have already been, or you may have never even been to Europe before. But what I can say is that Florence is also called Firenze in Italian. It is the 8th largest city in Italy, and it is the capital of the Tuscany region. It's, as you know, famous for history, art, architecture. It makes it a perfect location for constant exploration. It has Renaissance roots, as you know. The Renaissance was born in Florence. It's continued to grow and exemplify the spirit of innovation. For example, fashion students can enjoy streets like Via Tornabuoni, where you can see Prada and Gucci lining the streets. And I love to window shop when I go there. Can't afford it, but I love it. And then throughout the year, they have exhibits like Pizzi Immagine Uomo and Pizzi Immagine Bimbo, where you have these designers like Zach Posen and others coming in to show their works of art in Florence because it is such a perfect location to show off design and culture. So for those who love that, you can see not only these events, but there's plenty of museums throughout the city. You may be familiar with the Statue of David, the Birth of Venus. These are a few of the artworks hosted in Florence that are kept there permanently. Florence attracts students from all around the world. It is a very popular study abroad location, so it's very academic. And it has been home to many scholars throughout the ages. And that way you may recognize some as Dante Alighieri, Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci as artists and scholars. And every aspect of life in Florence is super inspiring to people, no matter what field they may be in, whether they be future architects, politicians, writers, social activists, or artists. I always see there's something for everyone to do. And you may be surprised how much your study abroad experience inspires you and what you come to realize about yourself from an academic session anywhere, but especially Florence because of that spirit of innovation. And we're just really excited to be a part of that journey for you guys as you explore the city and your new goals. So Concordia students have 3 options when it comes to terms. There is a summer session in June or July. There is a full semester session, or you can go for an academic year. In the summertime, LdM offers 2 shorter sessions, each 4 weeks long, one in June, one in July, as I said. Students can choose the month that works better for their schedule or whatever class is offered at each session. Sometimes I have seen students go to both sessions and do 8 weeks total. That's definitely an option on our end. You just have to make sure it's okay with everything back home as well. And you could do 1 to 2 courses per summer session. So that's 3 to 6 credits respectively. If you choose to study in Italy for a full semester, you would earn typically between 12 to 15 credits. And for some, as you know, a semester is not quite enough. So if you want to go for an academic year, just start early. We do have one specialized program that I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention. Students, especially those interested in creative arts, should really consider our restoration workshop hosted in June or July in Florence. This restoration workshop takes place 3 weeks in Florence and 1 week off-site, where students will get to do some field work with the faculty and stay at a B&B at the location there with the other students. It's a really exciting hands-on opportunity, and usually great weather in southern Italy in the summer. So I would definitely say to consider that. It is it's 6 credits for just taking that one course. So students will be applying their conservation and restoration techniques to authentic works of art in historical Italian locations and getting 6 credits along with that. Processing all of that, I just would like to ask, what does everybody's timing look like? When would you want to go? Something a lot of students want to know is about housing. What does housing look like at LdM? So here's a little bit of opportunity to be interactive once more with you guys. I want to ask you to look at this slide and see what you identify better with on this page. Are you the one on the left, the one who's a bit more independent, doesn't love curfews, enjoys cooking on their own and in their own kitchen, is fine living amongst multiple other students? Or are you more on the right? You're interested in a warm family environment, and you definitely want homemade dishes all of the time, Italian food every day of the week. You might have already guessed what is in store, but at LdM, students can choose between a LdM apartment or an LdM homestay with an Italian family. If you choose housing in an LdM apartment, you will get to live with other LdM students, of course. And LdM apartments are furnished with everything you might need: bedding, furniture, kitchen utensils, Wi-Fi, etc. Keep in mind that no 2 apartments are the same, and a majority of LdM apartments are located in historic buildings. So they are going to look different. They are going to be different. There aren't going to be elevators because they're historic and everyone walks up the stairs, and that's just what they do in Italy. So you'll be getting very fit and working off all the gelato that you consume. On the other hand, homestays are a great way to pick up the Italian language, learn about Italian family life and customs. Plus, homestays do provide meals as well as laundry services, and you would live with another student, maybe just one, but there's always going to be at least one other student in that homestay with you. And at both housing options, you can select a single room or a shared room with another student. Okay. So just thinking about what's right for you, maybe that'll help you make your decision on what you would want. As for roommates, our students are, as you know, housed with other LdM students. So if you know someone going, you can certainly request them as a roommate or an apartment mate. If you do not know someone going, most students don't really know a lot of people going, so they will just fill out our personal profile, and the housing office will match them with students like them who answer similarly to create some good energy in the apartments. And we will always take into consider requests that you guys list on your housing profiles, as well as we have a whole housing office to manage all of that. In addition to the support you receive through our housing office, every student who attends LdM has constant support from an LdM advisor. So Concordia students, for example, will be assigned to a specific LdM advisor. And our team of LdM advisors provide any help you might need, like accessing healthcare, getting you connected to English-speaking physicians. If they need to do a house call, they could do a house call instead of you going to them. Students can feel reassured that there are hospitals nearby and within walking distance, so you're always going to have access to healthcare. Additionally, LdM advisors can help you with navigating the process of using international insurance while you're abroad, regardless of your provider. Mental health services are available and free and can be booked online to talk with LDM counselors. And last but not least, LDM does provide a 24/7 emergency number that can be used outside of business hours in case any student needs to get in touch with an LDM advisor for any reason. So there's always going to be an advisor on call there to help you guys if you need, and you're going to get that number at orientation. It's going to be in your apartment, taped to your wall or your door. It's going to be around. You're going to have access to that. Something students really look forward to other than classes and roommates is often some fun extracurricular activities. These are great ways to meet other students who aren't in your housing, who aren't in your classes, and get a more well-rounded experience while you're abroad. These are some examples listed on this slide. Some popular activities include learning about handicrafts and how things are made in Italy, like artisanal paper and gelato. And for those going in the spring, I just want to say there is a gelato festival. I think it's like 3 days long that goes on in the spring. So mark that on your calendar. Florence students will also take advantage of free cooking activities where they're paired up with our state-of-the-art kitchen facilities and our chefs and taught how to make classic Italian recipes like pizza margherita. Our instructional chefs do a wonderful job of explaining about the history and the chemistry of each ingredient, which allows our students to recognize what makes the Italian cuisine so special. And that's just one example of many, many activities that you could do. So even if you don't take a cooking class, you can still do a cooking activity or another artsy activity while you're abroad as well. Along that same line is the LDM clubs. You guys were all interested in semester programs, so I would like to remind you and maybe introduce you to the concept of LDM clubs. These change throughout the semester, but a few that have been offered in the past are football, Italian style. You have volleyball, there's a board game club, there has been Arcobaleno Club, which is LGBTQ students who have formed a club to get together. There's been cooking club, fashion club. There's been so many different clubs offered throughout the different semesters. So I would definitely say consider signing up for one when you arrive. Usually clubs meet between 3 to 9 times per semester. So this is, again, a really good way to meet other LDM students and find cool activities outside of what you do in class. And if you'd like, you can always sign up for an optional weekend excursion. These usually run, I think they're going for $350 US, and you can sign up for them probably prior to arrival. I'll reach out to students who are going abroad in the spring, sometime in the next couple months and see if they want to sign up. But if you don't want to sign up in advance, you can always sign up at orientation. And a few of the locations have included Venice, Pompeii and the Amalfi Coast, Cinque Terre, Monte Carlo. Of course, you don't have to go to these, but if you do, you'd have an LDM professor with you along the way. There'd be other LDM students on the trip, private bus transfer, some meals covered, and hotel accommodations and private tours booked. So that does take some stress off of planning a trip to a new city. So knowing all of this, maybe you all know, because you're obviously in touch with Parker, what you need to do next. But Parker, if you have any notes about what to do next, maybe you could say.
I think that most folks are aware on this call. But they would just meet with me and we would talk through this.
And once you arrive on site, we'll help you from there. How often are the optional weekend trips? Okay, so it's been a couple years since we hosted them, but they're back this semester. I think there's usually like 9 different trips and they take place throughout the semester. So not every weekend, but most weekends. So you'll leave on a Saturday morning and you'll come back on a Sunday night. And these kind of are like peppered through the semester and not during holidays. So you'll kind of avoid those holiday weekends, fall or spring break weekends, but you'll have them, otherwise. And they usually start like a couple weeks after students arrive. So an apartment, I could be living with 4 other people. It is possible that you could be living with up to 5 other people, actually, other than yourself in the past. I do know that housing has tried to keep it around 4 this past semester, just for safe health and safety and everything, but it is still possible that there could be up to 4 or as little as 1 person in an apartment with you. It varies. It just varies.
For your professors, like what does it range for them in terms of like they have, other positions at different colleges or universities, or they're like full-time teaching at LdM?
Yeah, just as you mentioned, Parker, our professors come in from a variety of backgrounds. So there may be professors who are full-time faculties, and they, teach at LdM. They may be teaching at the public university, Universidad degli Studi di Firenze. Some of them may be professionals in their field. They may have their own companies or studios. They may have, for example, one of our fashion merchandising professors, in addition to teaching, she has her own brand. And so actually she has a store where we also host some of the internships, so that there's a lot of connection there. Some of our faculties, for example, in certain fields like sciences are full-time researchers as well. For areas like design, they may work for different fashion brands, Italian, and it's sometimes they'll come and teach and then go back to, Rome or Milan, or be traveling around because of, work. So they bring all of these to the classroom as well. So there's a variety, and also a variety of nationalities. As you may have seen on one of the slides that Emily presented, we have about 200 faculty from different countries.
And for the single room question, yes, you can request a single room. They're not 100% guaranteed. It's just up to availability. But in the event that you didn't get a single room, you'd be refunded for the single room amount. Well, that'd be through Concordia. But
one question I have is kind of, since you're drawing students from all over the world and up to 3,000 in a given year, like what regions of the world do you tend to draw more or less from, like terms of like Africa, Asia, Latin America, etc.?
Yeah, I'll let Maria say some stuff too, but from my experience, it's been quite a lot of students from Mexico will come to our programs. I've seen a lot of students from the Netherlands, actually. Interestingly enough, some other European students will come. We've had our share of students from China. It's very diverse. Maria, you might have some other insight as well, because I know you assist sometimes with the registrars.
Yes, so I think the picture that you have just shared is pretty accurate in terms of percentages. It varies, of course, by session,
Right.
But we would say probably about 75% of the student population comes from U.S. universities. But you may be meeting, students from different states, and within that student population that is coming from U.S. universities, you already have some international students too,
Right.
who are
That's true.
completing their degree in the U.S. And then, as Emily mentioned, probably about, I would say 10% comes from Mexico and Latin America. And then the remaining percentage is a little bit spread throughout all the other different countries and nationalities. We have partnerships. A good amount of our affiliations are within North America, but they, of course, we also have partnerships in other countries. And we try to create the spaces for students to be able to meet and connect with not only Italian, faculty, staff, and students through initiatives such as the extra academic activities, but also within the LdM community.
How much typically do students kind of interact with the other colleges and universities in Florence? So you mentioned the public university there. I imagine there's a number of different higher education institutions in the city. And you mentioned some of these initiatives to help with interaction. I mean, I imagine it's a pretty small city and it's quite dense. So it's like, if you're going out, you may bump into folks.
Yeah, that always happens. Like I've had plenty of students who they've been hanging out with Italian students from the universities or US students who are there for a different program. Like I know factually they all hang out and mix and meet each other. So I don't know where they do that, but I definitely know it happens.
And through LDM, one of the places, and of course the pandemic has altered a little bit the way in which we're trying to foster and encourage these, but pre-pandemic, for example, we had the, and we hope to restart, the tandem exchange program. For the students who are taking Italian language, they can sign up for the tandem exchange, and you would be paired with an Italian, with a student from the public university who wants to practice their English. And so that becomes one way of not only practicing the language, but it potentially becoming really good friends with this one student who then introduces you to their network. And so that becomes a really nice connection. We have, as Emily mentioned, volunteer opportunities that are usually organized through local organizations. So that is yet another way of connecting. And then, yes, the city, especially the city center, is so concentrated that it's really easy to just be walking downtown and then you see someone with, you know, a hoodie or a bag from one of the schools. And so maybe they can start a conversation at a museum or a cafe. Or
Thank you for hosting this. We do appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no problem. So
thank you
I love
for
getting
inviting us.
Maybe
Thank
we'll
you
do
so
it in
much.
person sometime soon, in the next year or two.
That would be lovely. I would love to be back on campus. And Emily, you've been too on campus, right?
Yeah, I got to go. I think in 2019 I went, and I got to see Fargo, and that was pretty cool. And Moorhead was amazing. There were some great places. I don't know if I'm allowed to say breweries, but they were so great. And it was so fun.
Thank you to everyone for joining, and then to welcome everyone else in whichever session you have in mind to join.